The skies above Earth changed forever on a quiet Tuesday morning in April 2047. What first appeared as an unusual meteor shower soon revealed itself as something else entirely. By noon, news channels worldwide showed the same images: a massive ship, unlike anything humans had built, moving into Earth's orbit. Alan Wright stared at the screens in NASA's control room. As the leading expert in theoretical alien languages, he had spent his career preparing for this moment, though he never truly believed it would come during his lifetime. "Dr. Wright," a voice called from behind, "the President is requesting you join the emergency meeting." Alan nodded, his eyes still fixed on the ship's strange flowing design. It resembled nothing in human engineering. No right angles, no visible seams, just smooth curves that seemed to shift slightly when you weren't looking directly at them. 3 days later, the aliens made their first communication attempt. They called themselves the Collective, a union of 18 different species from across the galaxy. Their message was simple: "We come in peace and friendship. We wish to share knowledge." In the weeks that followed, world leaders agreed to form a united diplomatic team. Alan was the natural choice to lead the communications effort. The military insisted on having representation as well, which came in the form of Major Samantha Powell, a decorated officer with a background in both combat and intelligence work. "I hope you understand my presence here isn't because we distrust your abilities, Dr. Wright," Samantha said during their first meeting. Alan smiled. "I'm actually glad you're here, Major. First contact shouldn't rest on just one person's shoulders." First, Collective invited a human delegation to their ship. The world watched as Alan, Samantha, and 10 other specialists entered the massive vessel for the first time. Inside, they met beings of various forms, some with 6 limbs, others with none, some breathing oxygen like humans, others requiring entirely different atmospheres. The Collective's main representative was Vex Lore, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin that shifted colors as they spoke. "We have observed your world for some time," Vexlore explained through a translation device. "Your species has great potential, but faces many challenges. We offer our help." Over the following months, the Collective shared remarkable gifts: cures for several previously untreatable diseases, methods to clean polluted waters, and more efficient energy technologies. Earth celebrated these advancements, and approval ratings for the alien visitors soared. Alan spent most of his time learning the Collective's main language and establishing communication protocols. Samantha focused on security measures and quietly assessed the aliens' capabilities. Neither fully let their guard down. "Something doesn't add up," Samantha told Alan one evening as they reviewed the day's negotiations. "They're giving us so much, but what do they want in return? No one is this generous without a reason." Alan had similar doubts but pushed them aside. "Maybe advanced civilizations simply outgrow our kind of suspicion," he suggested, though he didn't entirely believe it himself. 6 months into the diplomatic mission, Alan made a breakthrough in understanding the Collective's communication system. Working late one night, he discovered a pattern in their transmissions that didn't match their translation software. Using his own algorithms, he began decoding these hidden signals. What he found turned his blood cold. The messages contained reports about Earth's defenses, population centers, and resource deposits. More disturbing was a reference to humans as a Class D species, suitable for integration through controlled assimilation. Alan dug deeper. He accessed files not meant for human eyes and found records of a collective council vote from years earlier: 18 votes for classifying Earth as a resource planet for exploitation, 3 votes against. The decision had been made long before they arrived. He immediately contacted Samantha, who rushed to his quarters. They worked through the night, uncovering more details of the Collective's true plan. "They're planning something soon," Samantha said, reviewing a transmission schedule. "These signal patterns match military coordination we've seen in our own forces." Alan nodded grimly. "We need to warn everyone immediately." They prepared their evidence and arranged an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership for the following morning. Neither slept that night. As dawn approached, Alan stepped outside his quarters to clear his head. The observation deck offered a view of Earth below, beautiful, blue, and completely unaware of what was coming. A soft voice spoke behind him. "It is truly a remarkable world." Alan turned to find Vex Lore standing nearby, the alien's skin now a deep dark blue. "Yes, it is," Alan replied carefully. "I regret that you won't see it remain so," Vex Lore said, skin flashing briefly with patterns Alan now recognized as expressions of regret. "Your discovery came too soon. We had hoped for more preparation time." Alan felt a chill. "You know what I found." "Of course. Your communications have been monitored since you arrived." Vex Lore moved closer. "You should know that not all of us agreed with this plan. Some of us argued that your species deserved respect, not subjugation." "Then help us," Alan pleaded. Vex Lore's skin darkened further. "I cannot. The decision was made. The collective stands united in action once a vote is cast." Before Alan could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Through the window, he saw multiple smaller ships launching from the main vessel, heading toward Earth. "What's happening?" he demanded. "The integration has begun," Vex Lore stated simply. "Your military installations are the first targets. It will be quick." Alan ran back to his quarters, finding Samantha already at the door, face grim. "They've jammed our communications," she reported. "We can't warn anyone." They watched helplessly as the first explosions bloomed across Earth's surface. The collective ships targeted military bases, communication centers, and government buildings with surgical precision. "This isn't an invasion," Samantha realized, horror dawning on her face. "It's a takeover." "They've been planning this for years," Alan said, thinking of all the technology they had so eagerly accepted. "Every gift they gave us probably contained tracking devices or weaknesses they could exploit." Within hours, Earth's major defense systems had been neutralized. The collective announced itself as the new governing authority of the planet, promising peace and prosperity under their guidance. Many human leaders, faced with overwhelming technological superiority, surrendered immediately. Not everyone gave up. As Alan and Samantha were placed under house arrest aboard the ship, they began planning. They might be prisoners now, but they had knowledge no other humans possessed. They understood the collective's language, technology, and weaknesses better than anyone else on Earth. "This isn't over," Samantha whispered as they watched their world change forever below them. "They think they know humans, but they don't. They have no idea what we're capable of when we're fighting for our freedom." Alan nodded, determination replacing his initial shock. "They may have won the first battle, but they haven't seen anything yet." 3 years passed since the day the sky fell. What remained of human civilization now lived either under collective control in the cities or in hidden resistance camps scattered across the more remote parts of Earth. Alan Wright no longer looked like the clean-cut diplomat from before. His beard was long, his once neat hair now tied back, and his eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. The abandoned mining complex in the Rocky Mountains served as their main base, housing nearly 200 resistance fighters. "Any word from the eastern cells?" Alan asked as he entered the command center, a repurposed mining office filled with salvaged equipment. Samantha Powell looked up from the map spread across the table. The former major now led their military operations, her tactical mind proving invaluable in their guerrilla war. "Group B made contact last night," she replied. "They hit a supply depot near Chicago, got away with medicine and weapons." Alan nodded. Small victories were all they had these days. "And our guest?" he asked. Samantha's expression hardened. "Still not talking. 3 days now." Their guest was a collective overseer they had captured during a raid. So far, the alien had refused to provide any useful information. "I'll try again," Alan said. He walked through rough stone tunnels until he reached a sealed door guarded by 2 fighters. They nodded respectfully and unlocked it. Inside, a being with gray-blue skin and 4 eyes sat motionless. The collective overseer, a member of a species called the Tavari, watched Alan enter. "I have nothing to say to lesser beings," the alien stated flatly. Alan pulled up a chair. "Then just listen. Your forces lost another outpost yesterday. That's the third this month. Your collective didn't plan for this level of resistance, did they? The alien's upper eyes blinked, a sign of annoyance Alan had learned. Temporary setbacks. The collective has subdued hundreds of worlds. Yours is nothing special. Alan leaned forward. Then why are we still fighting after 3 years? Why haven't you crushed us completely? Before the alien could respond, the door opened and Beth Collins entered. Once a leading cybersecurity expert for the government, Beth now served as their tech specialist. Sorry to interrupt, she said, excitement clear in her voice. But Gary needs you both in the lab. Now. Alan followed her through the tunnels to a large chamber filled with equipment, some human, some stolen from the collective. Dr. Gary Martinez hunched over a workbench, surrounded by strange devices that hummed with energy. Gary had been a neurologist before the invasion. Now he studied how the collective's technology interacted with various life forms, particularly humans. I found something, Gary said without looking up. Something big. He pointed to a screen showing 2 brainwave patterns side by side. This is a human brain, he said, pointing to the left image. And this is a Tavari brain from our guest. Notice anything? Alan studied the patterns. They're completely different. Exactly, Gary said. But it's more than that. When I expose the Tavari brain waves to certain patterns generated by human thinking, specifically creative problem-solving or musical appreciation, it causes disruption. Beth joined in. That's consistent with what I've found in their systems. Their technology follows neural patterns similar to their brain structure. It's why I can sometimes hack their systems using approaches that shouldn't work by our standards. What does this mean exactly? Samantha asked, always focused on practical applications. Gary smiled for the first time in months. It means they have a weakness. Their neural networks, both biological and technological, can't process certain patterns that human brains generate naturally. It's like we speak a language their systems can't fully translate. Alan felt hope spark inside him. Can we use this? I think so. Gary nodded. I'm working on a device that could amplify these disruptive patterns. In theory, it could temporarily disable their neural tech within a certain radius. And their weapons are neural-based, Samantha added, catching on quickly. For the next several weeks, the base buzzed with renewed energy. Gary and his team worked day and night on the neural disruptor. Beth focused on finding ways to infiltrate the collective's communication networks. Samantha trained fighters to use the new tactics they were developing. Alan split his time between helping each team and continuing his interviews with their Tavari prisoner. Slowly, he pieced together more about how the collective operated. Your species was classified as Class D, the alien finally explained one day. Primitive but useful. Worker potential with proper guidance. Based on what criteria? Alan pressed. Neural structure, creativity limits, adaptability assessments, standard metrics? Alan thought about Gary's discoveries. And if those assessments were wrong? The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Uncertainty. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Beth was working late, testing different frequency patterns against salvaged collective technology. She had the idea to play music through her system while working, an old habit from her pre-war days. As Bach's Cello Suite No. 1 played softly, the alien device on her workbench suddenly sputtered and went dark. Beth stared in shock, then quickly repeated the test with different music. Certain compositions, particularly those with complex harmonies, cause consistent disruption to collective technology. She ran to Alan's quarters despite the late hour. Music, she exclaimed as she burst through his door. Their systems can't handle human music. The next morning, they gathered the leadership team. It makes sense, Gary explained after hearing Beth's discovery. Music engages multiple parts of the human brain simultaneously in ways unique to our neural structure. To their systems, it's like trying to process multiple contradictory commands at once. Can we weaponize it? Samantha asked. Gary nodded. Combined with the neural disruptor I'm building, absolutely. For the first time, They began planning offensive rather than defensive operations. Small raids tested the music theory. Fighters, carrying speakers playing specific compositions, found they could temporarily disable collective weapons and communication devices. Word spread through resistance cells worldwide. The collective forces, confused by this new tactic, began suffering more frequent defeats. 6 months after the discovery, Gary completed his neural disruptor prototype, a device that could amplify human brainwave patterns and broadcast them over a wide area. "It works in tests," he told the group, "but to really make a difference, we'd need to broadcast this galaxy-wide through their own network." "Their main command ship," Samantha said immediately. "It houses their central communication array." Alan looked around at their faces, tired but determined, still fighting after everything they'd lost. "That ship is in high orbit, heavily guarded, and designed to keep humans out," he noted. Beth smiled. "Good thing we're so good at doing what they think is impossible." "We've been reacting for 3 years," Alan said, standing up. "It's time we took the fight to them." They began planning their most daring mission yet, an operation that would either free Earth or doom what remained of human resistance. But, for the first time since the invasion, they had something the collective never expected humans to find, a weakness only they could exploit. The plan to infiltrate the collective command ship was risky at best, suicidal at worst. Alan knew this as he studied the rough model they had built based on what little information they had about the massive vessel hanging in Earth's orbit. "Shuttle Bay is our best entry point," Samantha said, pointing to a section of the model. "Their worker ships come and go regularly. If we can steal one, we might slip in unnoticed." Alan nodded. The collective used smaller ships to transport resources from Earth's surface to their main vessel. The Resistance had been watching these movements for months. "The command center would be here," Beth added, indicating the center of the model. "That's where we'd need to install the neural disruptor to access their communication network." Gary Martinez adjusted his glasses. "The disruptor is ready, but someone will need to operate it manually. I can't make it fully automatic with the parts we have." The 4 of them looked at each other. They all knew what that meant. Whoever went on this mission likely wouldn't be coming back. "I'll go," Alan said finally. "I know their language and systems better than anyone." "Not alone," Samantha cut in. "You'll need combat support. I'm coming too." Beth raised her hand. "You'll need me to hack into their network." Their planning continued for weeks. They would need a small team, just enough people to operate the stolen shuttle and protect those working on the disruptor. A larger group would draw too much attention. Meanwhile, their Tavari prisoner became increasingly agitated as the humans' small victories continued. One evening, as Alan brought food to the cell, the alien spoke unprompted. "You cannot win, Luri," Tavari said. "Even if you disable our forces on Earth, the collective spans thousands of worlds." Alan set down the tray. "Why did the collective vote to enslave Earth?" "The real reason." The alien was quiet for a moment. "Resources, primarily. Your world is rich in materials we need, but also insurance." "Insurance?" Alan asked. "Your kind is unpredictable. Most species follow clear development paths. Yours branches chaotically. Some on the council saw potential danger if humans were allowed to develop freely." Alan leaned against the wall. 3 members voted against classifying us as Class DY. All 4 of the aliens' eyes focused on Alan. "They believed your species was being misclassified, that your neural capabilities suggested a much higher categorization. This confirmed what they had learned. The collective had fundamentally misunderstood humans, seeing their unique brain functions as primitive rather than different." 2 days before the mission launch, they received unexpected news. A resistance cell in what was once Australia had captured a worker shuttle intact. "It's a miracle," Beth said as they gathered to hear the news. "Now we don't have to steal one." "They're bringing it to the rendezvous point," Samantha confirmed. "We leave tomorrow night." The small team gathered their equipment. The neural disruptor was carefully packed into a reinforced case. Each fighter carried weapons taken from fallen collective soldiers. As they prepared to leave, Alan made one last visit to their prisoner. "We're moving you to another location," he told the Tavari, not revealing their real plan. The alien studied him carefully. "You found something, haven't you? Some weakness." Alan said nothing. "It won't matter," the Tavari continued. "The collective adapts. It's how we've survived for millennia." Alan finally spoke. "Maybe adaptation is exactly what we're counting on." The team departed at nightfall, traveling through mountain passages to meet the Australian cell. 48 hours later they had the shuttle. It was smaller than Alan had expected, with organic-looking controls that pulsed with soft light. The Australian fighters had captured 2 Tavari workers as well, who now sat bound and guarded. "They've shown us the basic controls," explained the leader of the Australian cell. "Simple enough once you understand the pattern. The ship, partly, responds to thought." They loaded their equipment and prepared for launch. The plan was to approach during the busy exchange period when dozens of shuttles returned from resource collection. As they lifted off, Alan felt a strange sensation as the ship seemed to connect with his mind. The controls responded to his thoughts, almost before he touched them. "Look," Beth whispered as they rose higher. Below them, Earth spread out in darkness with patches of light showing where collective control was strongest. But between those lights were vast dark areas, places where human resistance still fought back. Their approach to the command ship went smoothly. They transmitted the codes they had taken from the captured workers, and the massive shuttle bay, doors opened to receive them. "We're in," Samantha murmured as they settled into a docking port. The inside of the collective ship was unlike anything they had imagined. Living walls pulsed with light and energy. Beings of various species moved through corridors that seemed to shift and change. They moved cautiously, using the captured workers' identification to avoid immediate detection. Beth had created a device that partially masked their human brain patterns from nearby sensors. "The central command should be 3 levels up," Alan whispered, following the mental map he had constructed from prisoner interrogations. They encountered their first real obstacle at a security checkpoint. 2 guard species, tall, insect-like beings, blocked their path. "Worker access restricted," one chittered. "Return to shuttle bay." Samantha nodded to one of their team. He activated a small speaker playing a modified version of Mozart's Symphony No. 40. The effect was immediate. The guards became disoriented, their movements jerky. The team rushed past, heading deeper into the ship. "They'll know we're here now," Beth warned. "That trick won't work twice on the same species." They fought their way through several more checkpoints, using different musical compositions each time. Their understanding of which music affected which species proved invaluable. After what seemed like hours, they reached a massive door that pulsed with energy. "This is it," Alan said. "The central communication array." Gary's voice came through their communicators. He had remained behind to coordinate from Earth. "The disruptor needs to connect directly to their main system. Look for something like a neural interface. It would be designed for collective species but should work with the adapter we built." Beth examined the walls. "There." She pointed to a pulsing node. "That looks like what we need." They set up the disruptor while Samantha and the others formed a defensive perimeter. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "Hurry," Samantha urged as she fired at the first wave of guards entering the corridor. Beth worked frantically to connect the device. "It's fighting me," she gritted through clenched teeth. "Their system recognizes it as foreign." Alan joined her, placing his hands on the interface. "Let me try. I've had the most direct contact with their technology." As his fingers touched the pulsing surface, he felt a jolt as the ship's system seemed to probe his mind. But instead of rejection, he felt something unexpected: recognition. "It's working," he whispered in amazement. "The system is accepting the connection." The neural disruptor hummed to life, its lights pulsing in rhythm with Alan's heartbeat. Now they just had to activate it and hope it would work as planned. Everything depended on what happened next. As the neural disruptor connected to the collective system, Alan felt a strange sensation wash over him. It was as if his mind was suddenly much larger, extending beyond his body, and into the ship itself. He could sense the vast network of the command vessel, pulsing, alive, and now partly open to him. "Alan, are you okay?" Beth's worried voice seemed distant. He blinked, forcing himself back to the present moment. "Yes. It's connected. I can feel it." "We've got company," Samantha shouted from the doorway where she and the others were holding off collective guards. Energy blasts struck the walls around them, leaving scorch marks on the living tissue of the ship. Beth worked furiously on her tablet, which was linked to the disruptor. "I need 2 more minutes to calibrate the broadcast frequency." "You've got 1, Samantha replied grimly as more guards appeared at the end of the corridor. Alan placed his hands back on the neural interface. The connection strengthened immediately and he was flooded with information. Ship schematics, communication protocols, security systems. It was overwhelming but somehow familiar, as if the human brain was designed to process this kind of data. "Wait," he said suddenly. "I can access their security controls through this interface." Focusing his thoughts, Alan managed to seal several doors in the approaching guard's path. The ship resisted him at first, but when he channeled his thoughts through the disruptor's human brainwave patterns, the resistance crumbled. "That won't hold them for long," he warned. "Long enough," Beth said with determination as she typed final commands into her tablet. "Ready." A loud explosion rocked the corridor outside. Samantha dove through the doorway as part of the ceiling. Collapsed. "They're bringing in heavier weapons," she reported, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "We're running out of time." "Now or never," Beth said, finger hovering over the activation button. Alan nodded. "Do it." Beth pressed the button, and the disruptor hummed louder. Its lights pulsed rapidly, matching Alan's accelerated heartbeat. Through his connection to the ship's systems, he could feel the human neural patterns beginning to flow into the collective network. Nothing seemed to happen at first. Then gradually, the lights in the chamber began to flicker. The living walls of the ship trembled slightly. "Is it working?" Samantha asked, reloading her weapon. Before anyone could answer, an alarm sounded, different from the security alert they had triggered earlier. This one was deeper, more urgent. Through the neural interface, Alan sensed confusion spreading throughout the ship. The collective beings were experiencing something they had never encountered before. Human thought patterns flooding their neural networks, disrupting their highly structured minds. "It's working," he confirmed, "but it's only affecting this ship. We need to reach their galactic communication array to broadcast this throughout the entire collective." Beth checked her tablet. "According to the schematics we have, that would be 2 levels up, in the central spire." Another explosion rocked the chamber. Part of the wall near Samantha collapsed, nearly crushing her. "We can't hold this position," she said. "We need to move." Taking the disruptor with them, the small team fought their way through increasingly disoriented guards. The effects of the device were spreading throughout the ship, making it difficult for the collective beings to coordinate their defense. As they reached a large lift that would take them to the central spire, they ran into a group of elite guards, a species they hadn't encountered before. These beings had armored exoskeletons and seemed less affected by the disruptor. "Get behind me," Samantha ordered, pushing Alan and Beth back as she raised her weapon. The firefight was intense but brief. When it ended, Samantha had taken a serious hit to her leg. She leaned against the wall, face pale with pain. "I'll stay and hold them off," she said. "You two get to the central array. We're not leaving you," Alan protested. "This isn't a debate," she said firmly. "The mission comes first. Always has." Beth looked at the disruptor readings. "The effect is starting to fade. Their systems are adapting. We need to reach the central array now, or this was all for nothing." With a heavy heart, Alan helped Samantha into a defensible position near the lift entrance. She gave him her spare weapon. "See you on the other side," she said with a tight smile. The lift carried Alan and Beth upward toward the central spire. When the doors opened, they found themselves in a vast chamber unlike anything they had seen before. At its center floated a crystalline structure that pulsed with energy, the Galactic Communication Array. "There," Beth pointed. That's where we need to connect the disruptor. They moved forward cautiously, but the chamber appeared empty. No guards, no workers, nothing. I don't like this, Alan whispered. It's too easy. As they reached the central, crystal, the air shimmered before them. A figure appeared, the tall, elegant form of Vex Lore, the collective representative who had first welcomed them to the ship years ago. Dr. Wright, Vex Lore said, skin shifting to a deep purple. I had hoped we would meet again under better circumstances. Alan raised his weapon. Stay back. I am not here to stop you, Vex Lore said calmly. I am here to help. Beth looked at Alan in confusion. What is this? A trick, Alan said, keeping his weapon aimed at Vex Lore. Not a trick, the alien replied. An opportunity. I was one of the 3 who voted against classifying humans as Class D. I have been watching your resistance with great interest. Alan didn't lower his weapon. Why would you help us? Because the collective has become stagnant. We conquer, we assimilate, but we no longer grow. Your species has shown more innovation in 3 years of resistance than many collective worlds have shown in centuries. Beth had connected the disruptor to her tablet. Alan, whatever this is, we're running out of time. The ship's systems are adapting to the disruptor's effects. Vex Lore gestured to the crystal. That requires collective genetic authentication to access. You cannot use it without me. Alan studied the alien carefully. The skin patterns showed no signs of deception that he had learned to recognize. If you help us, what happens to you? He asked. I will be judged as a traitor, Vex Lore said simply. But perhaps I will be remembered as a visionary. A distant explosion shook the chamber. The fighting was getting closer. We don't have a choice, Beth urged. We have to trust him. Alan nodded slowly and lowered his weapon. What do we need to do? Vex Lore moved to the crystal and placed a long, slender hand against its surface. The crystal glowed brighter, responding to his touch. Connect your device, the alien instructed, quickly. Beth attached the disruptor to an interface that appeared on the crystal's surface. The device hummed louder than before, drawing power from the communication array itself. It's ready, she announced. On your command. Alan looked at Vex Lore one last time. Why are you really doing this? The alien's skin rippled with colors Alan had never seen before. Because some truths are worth more than loyalty. Your species was never meant to be slaves. You were meant to be teachers. With a nod, Alan gave the order. Activate it, Beth pressed. The final command, and the chamber filled with light as the neural disruptor connected to the galactic communication array. And throughout the stars, the collective began to change. Light pulsed through the crystal array, spreading outward in waves that seemed to bend reality itself. Alan watched in awe as the human neural patterns flowed into the collective's galactic network. Through his connection to the ship's systems, he could feel the disruption spreading like ripples in a pond, touching ship after ship, world after world. Vex Lore staggered backward, hands pressed to his head. It's overwhelming, the alien gasped, skin flashing with rapid color changes. Is it hurting you? Alan asked, concerned despite everything. Not pain, just too much. Too many patterns at once. Vex Lore steadied himself against a wall. You don't understand what you've done. Human thought patterns are unlike anything. In the collective, it's like introducing a new color to beings who only saw in black and white. The chamber shook violently. Warning sounds blared throughout the ship. We need to find Samantha and get out of here, Beth urged, disconnecting her tablet from the disruptor. The device had served its purpose and was now beginning to overheat. They made their way back to the lift, Vex Lore accompanying them. The alien moved unsteadily, still adjusting to the effects of the human neural patterns flooding the network. When they reached the level where they had left Samantha, they found her, still alive but badly wounded. Several dead collective guards lay around her position. Took you long enough, she managed to say as Alan helped her up. Her eyes widened when she saw Vex Lore. What is that doing here? He helped us, Alan explained quickly. We need to move. Can you walk? With help, she admitted. As they made their way back toward the shuttle bay, they noticed something strange. The collective beings they encountered were no longer attacking. Most seemed disoriented. Some were completely still and others moved erratically as if trying to process new information. Their neural networks are overwhelmed, Vexlore explained. They are recalibrating. They reached the shuttle bay without further resistance and boarded their stolen craft. Beth took the controls this time as Alan was helping Samantha. I'm coming with you, Vexlore announced. Samantha raised her weapon despite her injuries. No way. I cannot stay, the alien insisted. I have committed treason. Besides, I am now changed. I need to understand what has happened to me. To all of us. Alan nodded. He comes. The shuttle launched and moved away from the command ship just as parts of it began to power down. Other shuttles were doing the same, some flying erratically as their pilots struggled with the neural disruption. Look, Beth pointed as they gained distance. Throughout Earth's orbit, collective ships were drifting, their lights flickering. Some smaller vessels were already falling into the atmosphere, burning up like meteors. It worked, Samantha whispered. It actually worked. They made it back to Earth and landed near their mountain base. Many of the resistance fighters were wary of Vexlore at first, but Alan vouched for him. Over the next few days, reports came in from resistance cells worldwide. Collective forces were in disarray. Their weapon systems had failed in many places, and their coordinated operations had ceased entirely. Gary examined Vexlore with fascination. His neural structure is actually changing, he reported after running tests, adapting to process human thought patterns. It's like his brain is rewiring itself. It's happening throughout the collective, Vexlore confirmed. Your broadcast reached every connected system. The effect is profound. 1 week after their mission, they received an unexpected communication. The Collective Supreme Council, the highest authority in their vast empire, requested to speak with Earth's leaders. It's a trap, Samantha insisted from her hospital. Bet Alan wasn't so sure. I don't think so, not this time. The meeting was arranged through Vexlore's connections. Alan, along with leaders from various resistance groups, would represent Earth. The meeting would take place on neutral ground, a space station orbiting the moon that had once been a scientific outpost. When they arrived, Alan was surprised to see only 3 collective council members present, not the full 18. The others could not come, explained one alien with crystalline features. They are unwell. The neural disruption affected them most severely. What do you want? Alan asked directly. To negotiate peace, replied another council member, and to correct a grave error. The council members explained that the collective had been forced to reconsider their classification of humans. The neural disruption had proven that human brains operated in ways they had never encountered before. Your species has been reclassified, announced the crystalline being. You are now Category A species to be approached with respect and caution, not to be interfered with. You expect us to trust you after what you did to our world? Asked one of the resistance leaders. No, admitted the council member. Trust must be earned. We offer reparations, technology, medical aid, and most importantly, we offer knowledge. The negotiations lasted for days. In the end, an agreement was reached. The collective would withdraw completely from Earth. They would provide advanced technology to help rebuild, and humans would be granted full rights within galactic society. 6 months later, Alan stood before the full collective council in their grand chamber on a distant world. The room was filled with representatives from all 18 ruling species. Earth had been invited to become the 19th. Humanity has much to offer the galaxy, Alan said in his address. Our art, our music, our unique way of thinking. But we also demand respect. We have proven that we will not be enslaved or controlled. As he spoke, he noticed something remarkable. The council members, beings who had once voted to enslave his species, were listening with rapt attention. Some even displayed physical signs of respect according to their various species' customs. When he finished speaking, the head counselor rose. According to Vex lore, who now served as Earth's guide to collective customs, this was unprecedented. The head counselor never stood for any speaker. "We acknowledge humanity's place among the stars," the ancient being announced. "We acknowledge our error in judgment, and we pledge to learn from you as equals." As the ceremony concluded, Alan watched, in amazement as each council member bowed in the human fashion, a gesture they had learned specifically for this occasion. Back on Earth, cities were being rebuilt. Collective technology had been repurposed to heal the environment and advance human medicine. The scars of war would take time to fade, but humanity had emerged stronger. "They still don't fully understand us," Samantha commented as she and Alan watched the first human embassy being constructed in what was once New York City. Alan smiled. "Maybe they never will. Maybe that's our greatest strength." The vote had been to enslave Earth, but now they bowed to humanity. Not because humans had conquered them through force, but because the unique human mind had changed the collective itself, opening it to new possibilities. In the end, it wasn't weapons that had saved humanity, but the very thing that made them human, their different way of thinking. And across the galaxy, species that had known only one way of thought for millennia began to dream in new patterns, forever changed by contact with the strange, unpredictable minds of Earth.